Hello, friends, and welcome to another exciting episode of Today with Tally. The mission and goal of this podcast is to bring an engaging conversation that will add value to the lives of everyday people. We will inspire, encourage, educate, and tell the stories of America's finest men and women in an effort to motivate you to live your life to its fullest potential. Be sure to follow us on social media and search Today with Tally. Be sure to subscribe, follow, and share the program as well. Ladies and gentlemen, your host of the evening, Mr. Brian Tally.
Welcome back to Today with Tally podcast, where we add real life value to the lives of everyday people. We are on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Anchor FM, Spotify, and About Face Radio. Simply search Today with Tally. And be sure to like, share, and subscribe to get every episode and stay up to date with the latest and greatest our guests in this show has to offer. Folks, today is going to be an all Colorado day. Our guest today is out of Colorado, and so is today's show sponsor. Now, I want to tell you about a company that's based out of Canyon City, Colorado, called Chase's Choice. Chase's Choice is an industry leader in cannabis and hemp products and continues to heal those in need. Whether you are struggling from physical pain, anxiety, depression, or having trouble sleeping, there is a product for you that will improve your quality of life. Ken, the founder of Chase's Choice, continues to engage in open conversation on the benefits of cannabis and hemp, CBD, CBG, CBN, THC, and all of the other cannabinoids found in the plant through extensive research and development. To learn more, visit Chase's Choice online today at chaseschoice.org. That's chaseschoice.org. Or call Ken, the owner, directly, 719-371-0768. That's 719-371-0768. Now, CBD was Chase's choice. What's yours? Folks, remember to always consult with your doctor before starting any alternative medicine products, and always check with your state and local municipalities on the laws regarding the use of CBD hemp products. Now, folks, I would like to introduce to our program Mr. Ryan Thompson, the founder and the CEO of 10th Mountain Whiskey and Spirit Company. How are you, sir?
Hey, doing great. Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it. And I'm calling Ken here after the podcast. That sounds great.
Hey, man, I'm hanging in there. You know, I know you're from Houston, and now you have Colorado ties, and I'm pretty much from Colorado. That's where I moved when I was a kid and graduated from Woodland Park High School up in the mountains, and now I live in Houston. So we've kind of like switched spots there.
Hey, man, I'm happy to switch spots with you. I always say I'm proud to be a Texan. I just prefer to live in Colorado.
Hey, that's fair. I remember when I was a kid, everybody was driving up Ute Pass, and it would be Texan, 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 Colorado, Texan, California, yep. California, California, Texan, Texan, Texan. And, going slow in the fast lane with their fifth wheels. But, hey, it is what it is.
That's right, man. I mean, if you grew up in Woodland Park, man, that's a cool spot to grow up in. And so kudos to you. I'm not sure how you ended up in Houston, but I apologize for that. And but I'm happy to live in Vail for the last 25 years. So it's hometown for me.
Outstanding. Yes. Vail is a beautiful country up there. I've done some jobs up there. I've done a lot of work up in that area, and you're right there off I-70, right?
That's right. You got it. I mean, people call it a glorified truck stop, but it's hometown for me, and I love it. It's a great mountain to ski on. It's great Rocky Mountains to play in, and I always get down to Denver and have a good time for a ball game, a hockey game like I did last night, and a concert every now and again at Red Rock. So it's a cool spot.
Absolutely. I'm a big sports fan, as well. But have you accepted the Broncos, or are you an old school Oilers guy that's trying to become a Texas fan?
You nailed it. Everyone asks me who's my football team. I'm like, Houston Oilers, baby. Houston Oilers, Warren Moon, Earl Campbell. Those are my days. So, yep.
Indeed. Yeah. The Texans are a mess.
Yeah. Well, let's not get started. Let's not go down that road, man. Houston Oilers are my team. So.
Absolutely. And unfortunately, they now live in Tennessee.
That's right. Yeah. So be it. I mean, Nashville's not a bad place to land. Nashville's got its own positivities there. So Nashville's a good spot. That's all right.
Absolutely. Now, I want this program, the reason why I started this podcast is to add real life value to the lives of everyday people. And when we met back in Denver several months ago, you had this 10th Mountain Whiskey and Spirit Company. And really, you're a lifelong entrepreneur, that started your first restaurant in 2002. And for the following 10 years, you started and operated and sold 4 additional businesses. And, I think that's, that takes a lot of hard work. That takes a lot of grit. That takes a lot of risk. But, I want to focus on the entrepreneurial part of this program. And then I want to get into what you're doing right now with 10th Mountain. Sure. What's it like being an entrepreneur? And when you kicked this stuff all off back in 2002, what was your goal and what was your strategy?
Well, I think maybe let's go back a little farther than that. When I was a kid, I always had an entrepreneurial bug in me. My mom and dad were entrepreneurs. They always did their own thing. So I think they led the way for me. And even since I was a young child, not only a lemonade stand, and I bought fireworks on 4th of July and sold them throughout the year because I could see the value, I guess, of that. I mean, I would buy fireworks at the fireworks stand and then sell them, and then bubble gum and baseball cards, and then I was the candy man of junior high school, and then in high school, I always did my own thing, doing hosting different volleyball tournaments and selling and mowing yards and raking leaves and doing the whole deal. And then in college, coached soccer in the off season, and then got to my adult life and kept it going. I bartended my first couple years in Vail, and always had now it's called a side hustle. Back then it wasn't a side hustle; it was just another gig for me. And then got serious in 2002 and put my life on the line for a restaurant. We just celebrated 20 years with that. It's the West Side Cafe in Vail, and then 10 years ago, started seeing what the Craft Distillery movement was doing and figured someone in town was going to make whiskey sooner or later. I was like, hell, that sounds like fun. And I like whiskey, and I brew beer a little bit, and figured I'd jump in with both feet. And I'm all in now with 10th Mountain Whiskey and Spirit Company. And it's stressful. It's a lot of fun. It's a great time. But I've got my life on the line for it, and it's what we're doing now. So.
Mm-hmm. Now, you saw an opportunity in your community to get this whiskey and spirit company up and going, this distillery. And like you said, you jumped in. It's all, when you become an entrepreneur, you're starting to weigh in all the risk versus the reward. Now, when you had structured this and put your business plan together, what did that look like moving forward in Vail, Colorado?
Yeah, so I put a lot of time into it first and foremost, and then went out to Moonshine University in Louisville, Kentucky, and got hands-on distilling knowledge there. For the record, it's illegal to distill 1 ounce of alcohol at your home base. Maybe or maybe not. We did that, or maybe we didn't. But so we started putting our foot in the water, I guess, if you will, early on in 2013, 2012. And then, I don't know why. I guess it's maybe cautious optimism or dumb luck. I don't know what it is, but figured we might as well dive in. If we're gonna do it, let's go all in. And so that's what I decided to do in 2013. And here we are, I guess, 10 years later. So yeah.
As any good entrepreneur will, always dive head first, go all in, because that's how you've got to get things done through an obsession. I tell people that all the time. You've got to be obsessed to be successful in this world. You've got to be obsessed. And like people say, oh, well, that's not healthy to be obsessed. Well, I disagree, because there's good obsessions and there's bad obsessions. And if you want to succeed, you've got to go all in. You've got to give it 110%, Because if you don't, somebody else is going to outwork you, and they're going to out-strategize you, and you're going to find yourself on the sideline, not in the game. And until you can figure that stuff out, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree, Brian. And we're recording this on February 15th. Yesterday was February 14th, and a book just came out yesterday called Burn the Boat. And I think that might resonate with your audience is, burn the boat. There's no turning back. If you're going, you're going, and you got to figure it out. So, and I burned the boat 10 years ago. So,
yeah, if you're in, you're in, right? Shit or get off the pot, right?
Exactly, man. You took the words out of my mouth. I didn't want to say that, but yeah, you got it. Exactly.
I've owned my fair share of businesses all the way up until 2016 when I got injured. And so my life has kind of taken a turn. It took a turn for the worse. And then, I got up about 3.5 years ago and I started to take my life back. And so now here I am as an entrepreneur with this new podcast that has been an absolute blessing to me. It's kind of given me a new lease on life and some new purpose out there. So again, I totally know where you're at and where you're headed and where you're going when it comes to being a successful entrepreneur. Now, you had mentioned that you got serious about this in 2013, you said?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I was watching what the Craft Distillery movement was doing a couple years previous. And then it was like someone in the Vail Valley is going to make whiskey. I mean, it has a good ring to it. The Vail Valley, people come internationally to visit us in our area and to ski on the mountain and have a good time in our area. And so, and then there's a big 10th Mountain Army Division influence in our area. That's where the 10th originated. And so back in 2011, 2012, I really started taking a hard look at it all. And then 2013, it was New Year's Day, 2013. And I was flipping through a whiskey magazine and Moonshine University had an advertisement in it. And I was like, well, hell, let me go after this deal in Louisville, Kentucky and see what happens. And so that happened about 6 weeks later. And I guess the rest is history after that. But yeah, it was 2013. So,
all right, Moonshine University. I mean, it almost sounds like some parody. You know what I mean? Like it almost sounds fake. What is Moonshine University, and what is it like?
It's exactly what you think it is. It's exactly what you think it is. They teach you how to operate a distillery from A to Z. Not only the fun stuff of making a new make distillate and going through that whole process, but also the legal side of it, the marketing side of it, all the day-to-day bullshit that we got to deal with. And so it was a hands-on A to Z class. It was only the first class they have is a week-long course. So it's not a 6-month semester or anything along those lines, but it was the first class is a week-long course, and then they have additional classes after that. But even 10 years later, we still lean on them and still have a good relationship with them. The most important thing that came out of Moonshine University was the relationships I've built. Met one of my good friends that started Peerless Distilling in Louisville. And when we come up across a problem or so, we'll give them a call and say, hey, how do we deal with this deal? So, but yeah, it's Moonshine. It's exactly what you think it is. So it's, and then of course there's tastings that start about 4:00 in the afternoon and continue on into the night. So it's a lot of fun.
So this is a university where you can literally get blitzed.
I mean, what university out there is not that you can get blitzed at, huh?
Right. Especially Colorado, right? Colorado State. So oh man, what a mess.
Just saying.
So what was your parting gift? Oh yeah, it looks like it's 3/4 gone. Good morning.
I told you I went to a hockey game last night.
Oh man. So what was your parting gift when you graduated from Moonshine University? Was it a banjo?
Well, it should be, Brian. It should be. That's a good call. It was. I mean, they give you a nice plaque and a picture and a certificate and all that stuff, right? And it's actually. So I went, and then our head distiller Sean Hogan went as well. And so we have our certificates hanging up in the office that no one ever sees that stuff. But yeah, they congratulate you, give you a pat on the back, and get on your way. So, but no, they're great. It's a great organization. I can't say too many good words about them. They're amazing. So yeah,
outstanding. You had mentioned that your company 10th Mountain has a lot of influence in Colorado. Can you explain?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Not only our company, but 10th Mountain Army Division overall has a big presence here in Colorado. So they originated at Camp Hale, just a couple miles south of Vail, in the 1940s, and they were a mountain warfare Army specific division. Went off and won some very significant battles in World War II. Came back and started the modern day ski industry, as we know. And Vail Mountain, Aspen, Arapahoe Basin were all started by 10th Mountain Army vets. The Olympic Development School and Steamboat was started by a 10th Mountain Army vet. Pletzel Climbing Gear was started by a 10th vet. A small brand that most people know, Nike, was started by a 10th Mountain Army vet. Phil Knight's business partner was a guy named Bill Bowerman, and he was a 10th Mountain vet. Bob Dole, rest in peace, Bob Dole was a 10th Mountain vet. And so they had a big influence on the modern day ski industry, as we know today. And so that's why we wanted to honor those guys with our namesake. And they're still one of the most deployed divisions today. I've got a lot of friends in 10th. I've got a lot of friends that were served in 10th. The CG of 10th is a good friend of mine. And so it's very important to us, our namesake, and we get an opportunity to share the history and educate people on the 10th Mountain Army Division over a glass of whiskey. So, yeah.
And now your grandfather was an Army officer in World War I?
Yeah, it's I've got he drew a map back in World War I, and it sits in my office right above my desk. And he was just a badass in World War I, and it means the most. He whittled me back when people would take a knife and take a piece of wood and whittle. He whittled me a little handgun, and it sits on top of the shadow box with the map that he drew, and it's a very important piece in my life. That means the most. I see it every time I walk up to my desk, so it means the most. But yeah, he was a badass in World War I, Army officer. So yeah.
And then your father also served in the Army and the Navy.
Yeah, it's a really unique thing. You don't often get guys or gals that have served both in Army and Navy, but Dad did that back in the 70s. He served in the Army as an infantry officer, and then in the Navy as a JAG. He was an attorney and did his time with the Navy as well. So, and then he graduated from that and then started his own career. But yeah, it means the most to carry on that lineage. So absolutely.
So who does he cheer for during the annual Army Navy game?
That's a great question, Brian. He kind of, I think when it came down to it, I think he cheered for Army. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, anchors away. Anchors away. I got to go Navy all day, being a Marine. You know what I mean? Department of the Navy.
And kind of with the 10th Mountain Army Division on my shoulder, I got to go Army too. So,
of course you do. You got a lot of history. You got a lot of family that served, in the Army, and and really at the end of the day, your brand is based off the Army.
Sure. Yep.
Now, another thing that you do at 10th Mountain Whiskey and Spirit is that you support the military nonprofits of all branches, all over the country. Can you explain exactly how you disperse these funds and perhaps maybe some of your favorite nonprofits that you like to donate to?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely, Brian. Appreciate you bringing that up. It's we'll start in our backyard, which is Vail Veterans Program. And they take wounded vets from around the country and introduce them to the outdoor lifestyle, given whatever kind of physical challenge they have sustained in the war. And and that program has changed not only the veterans' lives, but the families and the caregivers' lives as well. And it's right in our backyard. It started 16, 17 years ago by a gal named Cheryl Jensen, and she's an amazing gal, and her husband, Bill Jensen. And they started this program to bring soldiers into Colorado, into Vail, and teach them how to ski or snowboard in the wintertime. And then in the summertime, hiking, mountain biking, golfing, whatever. And so that program means a lot to us, certainly in our backyard. And so that's easy. I mean, not easy, but it means a lot to us to support that. But across the country as well. I mean, I can give a shout out to, I could name 20 different military nonprofits that we support. And not only Army, but like you said, any branch out there. And it's a big reason why we started. Anyone can make whiskey, right? Anyone can backyard distill, start a whiskey brand, but we started to support not only the 10th Mountain Army Division, but military nonprofits around the country. And so it is on the forefront of what we do, first and foremost, and it means a lot to us to be able to educate the people that come into our tasting rooms and to make sure we give back to those that have given us the opportunity, yourself included, to make sure that we're able to do what we do on a daily basis, which is make great whiskey and ski a great ski mountain. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And giving back to a vulnerable community too, and an at-risk community. Let's face it, veteran suicide is through the roof right now. So working with folks like the Vail Veterans Program, who bring in veterans who may be experiencing some hard times, can at least get them out of the house and get them back out into the population, have some camaraderie with the folks that are also joining them out there, perhaps build some new relationships and some new friendships. And you never know what the road to recovery might look like. And just the little smallest thing, just getting out and living again and beginning a new chapter.
Brian, you nailed it, bud. There's a couple different suicide prevention nonprofits that we support out there. I've got a network of friends that have been there and done that, and that we support each other. It means the most to me. I hope it means the most to them as well. But it's the military prevention, suicide prevention nonprofits are very important to us. Absolutely, man.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are being we have Ryan Thompson, the CEO and founder of 10th Mountain Whiskey and Spirit Company, joining us today. If you want to check out his products, go online right now, 10thwhiskey.com. That's 10thwhiskey.com. You could check out everything that he has online, perhaps buy a bottle, check it out, get some tasting done if you're in the Vail, Colorado area. Now, I want to get to a fun fact about you because, people are going to say, oh, wow, he's a veteran. He probably served with 10th Mountain. But that's just not the case here. Now, you aren't a veteran. You are just an entrepreneur who does care deeply about the military and the veteran community. Hence your past, father and grandfather's service, and the whole reasoning behind Vail and the history of 10th Mountain. But you became the first civilian to become an honorary member of 4th ID, which I believe is down in Fort Carson, and was also honored with the Order of St. Maurice. Can you explain this and kind of give our listeners a little elevator pitch on this?
Brian, it's hard to talk about it because I never expected anything like this to happen. I started making whiskey 10 years ago or so, and wanted to support the military. And we had an opportunity to help raise some funds for the 4ID monument outside of the Infantry Museum at down in Georgia. And so we did a fundraiser, not a fundraiser, like we sold some whiskey and donated a bunch of a couple bucks to this deal. And it's a great monument outside of the Walk of Honor at the Infantry Museum. And so I was down there for the unveiling ceremony of this deal, and then the honorary colonel, Frank Sturck, asked me to get on stage, and I didn't know what was going on. And then all of a sudden, I became the first civilian to be an honor member at 4ID. And then he also gave me some recognition with the Order of St. Maurice, which the Order of St. Maurice is when you support the infantry. Then it often goes to a mom or pop, or a brother, sister, or a spouse. And then I never expected this to happen. It's kind of hard to talk about, I guess, but it means a lot to me. And so I didn't serve, but often at different events that we're at, people ask, "Hey, were you in 10th Mountain?" Everyone expects that I was in 10th, right? But I wasn't in 10th. Got a lot of friends and family. But then I tell them I was the first civilian to become an honorary member of 4ID, and which is, I kind of blush talking about it, I guess. So,
this comes up a lot of the times on my program. I do have a ton of veterans.
Sure.
And I do have a ton of active duty military folks that are on the program as well. But I also have a lot of civilians that never served. And I always say, look, there's more ways to serve your country than just joining the military. And, you are kind of serving in a different capacity. You're giving back to a vulnerable community. You're serving the community of Vail, Colorado. You're serving a greater populace. And again, there's so many different ways to get out there to really improve the life, and the quality of life of the folks that you're really, your target audience, is a lot of the military and the veteran community, as well as civilians as well. I mean, that's a good brand of whiskey that you got there, but having that, that esprit de corps, if you will, it's truly fascinating. I bet it's quite the honor to have been, given that honorary distinction with 4th ID.
Yeah, I mean, Brian, it means the most to me. It's like there's no stolen valor here. I'm first and foremost saying I didn't serve it. I didn't go to war. I've got a bunch of buddies that have been there and done that. But I love supporting the community. Not only myself, but we have 15 full-time employees that are 100% behind the military community as well. We get to share the history of 10th Mountain on a daily basis at our tasting rooms. We understand the namesake that we fly, and exactly like you said, man. And we have 4 veterans on our staff right now. Marine, Air Force, and 2 Army guys. So it just means the most to us. So
I bet that can be a little hectic at times.
Hey, when you get a little whiskey involved, it makes some fun conversations. That's right. Yeah.
A lot of glass being broken, or
we might have broken glass or 2 here and there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, we're going to fast forward now 10 years, and your distillery, 10th Mountain Whiskey and Spirit Company, based out of Vail, Colorado, is now one of the most recognized craft distilleries in the country. Now, did you ever see this coming, or was this part of your business plan to say, hey, look, if I'm going to go in on this, I want to be recognized as one of the best?
I think a little bit of both, Brian. I think a little bit of both. I never thought so. I think maybe what you're alluding to is 2021 Craft Distillery of the Year, which is an amazing award for all of us. We never saw that one coming, and so we were up against some notables, and so to be recognized with that award is, I guess it's reaffirming. There's a lot of work in this business. We don't just sit around and drink whiskey and get on podcasts. Unfortunately, I wish we did. But there's a lot of work and a lot of paperwork and sitting around the still and doing what we do on a daily basis that a lot of people don't see. So to be recognized with that award is very rewarding for us, I guess, if you will. And so, I didn't want to just come out of the gate and be a garage distiller. more power to all those guys that do that. There's nothing wrong with that by any means. But I wanted to certainly spread the word of the 10th Mountain and try to make a mark on the distilling business. And it's a long haul. We're getting there. I mean, Jack Daniels and all those guys have been around for 150 plus years. And so we're only 10 years old, but we're trying our best to put a dent in the world and make some good spirits and carry on the 10th Mountain legacy. So maybe it wasn't in our business plan to be recognized in 2021, but it's certainly in our business plan to try to do the best job we can do. So,
like you said, you've been recognized with numerous awards, and one of them was being the Craft Distillery of the Year in 2021. How do you enter this, and what does it look like, the process of being nominated for such awards?
I guess that's probably the best part about it. We didn't enter it. We didn't enter it. So we were just nominated by a third party. I'm not even sure who nominated us, but so I guess that's the best part about it, is that we didn't enter it. And it's just one of those things that kind of happened naturally, which is really nice.
Where can our viewers and our listeners get a bottle of your whiskey?
Well, we're distributed across 15 states right now, but also you can go on 10thwhiskey.com, 10th whiskey.com, and buy direct. We can ship to 32 states. We have to, given the laws of our great country with alcohol, we have to use a third party a fulfillment company. And so they ship out of San Diego and Washington, D.C. So we have to use them to ship direct to consumer to 32 states. But 10thwhiskey.com, you can find us all there. So
there is, folks. Go out and check out a bottle of Ryan's 10th Mountain Whiskey and Spirits. Go check them out online today at 10thwhiskey.com. That's 10thwhiskey.com. Now, I want to get into the entrepreneurial side. I want to get into the capital side. Like I had started out in the beginning here, you have been a lifelong entrepreneur. I want to talk about the business aspect of the whiskey and not just the drinking it and the podcast and the hooting and hollering. And, everybody thinks this is all fun and games, but really at the end of the day, this is a big business and there's a lot that goes into this. Can you describe some of the day-to-day operations that you do?
Yeah, Brian. I mean, long story short, if I can be kind of candid, I got my cojones on the line, right? Mm-hmm. I got my whole life on the line for this deal. I got my house, I got my life savings, I got everything on the line for this deal. So, and we'll rewind to 2013 at Moonshine University. And they said there that it takes $2 million to start a distillery. And I was like, well, I don't have $2 million. How is this going to happen? But I had a dream. I had a couple bucks behind me. I had just sold one of those companies that we alluded to earlier in the podcast. So I'll just throw it out. I had $50,000 to start this deal. And I started piecing things together and started the brand and started distilling. And I started with a little small 13-gallon still. And then I got a local bank behind me for a small business loan. And then that got us off the ground for the first couple of years. And then refinanced that into a larger business loan through an SBA loan. And the SBA loan process is challenging. It's great because it gave me some capital to continue the brand. But it's certainly extremely challenging. And I'm happy to talk to anybody about that process. But, that's the road we went down. And then early on, we sold, I created something called a barrel investment program called BIPs, BIP, BIPs. And so we were selling BIPs at $3,000 a piece. And a BIP, $3,000 would pay for everything we needed to make a barrel of whiskey. And to bottle it, to label it, to case it, to get it out the door from A to Z. And so we sold about 150 bips at $3,000 a piece. Everyone can do that math. And so that helped us get out the door a little bit farther. And we paid off all those bips. And there was a 8 to a 10 to a 12% interest rate. we started at 12% and sold a lot of bips early on and dropped it down to 10% and then dropped it down to 8%. And we paid all those off a couple years back, and that got us down the road with our SBA loan. And slowly but surely, my man, slowly but surely, it's a process, and it weighs on me, man. I don't like being in debt to anybody, let alone the government. And so, but we're paying it off, and we're getting there. We're year over year, sales are increasing. So, I'm happy to discuss any of that process. So.
Mm-hmm. And I guess really that's what separates the employees from the owners in anything in life. They said you're going to need $2 million, and a lot of people would have said, yeah, I got to walk away from this. There's no way I'm going to be able to get that kind of cash. 50,000 isn't $2 million, but the life of an entrepreneur is going to keep going. They're going to say, I've got to find a way. If there's a will, there's a way. And that's where that mind spirit, that entrepreneurial mind spirit comes into play that a lot of people don't have. Like you said, it takes cojones. I've got my life on the line. There's stressors involved here. There's anxieties involved here. There's probably a lot of sleepless nights involved here. Now, if you had to do it all over again, would you?
Yeah, it's a conversation that I've had. So our head distiller, Sean Hogan, has been with us since day one. Yeah, previous day one. I approached Sean. He was bartending in our area at the time. I was like, and he was kind of looking for a different position. And I was like, hey man, I'm thinking about starting the distillery. Do you want to head up the tasting room? He's like, no, man, I'm done with front of the house. I'm like, all right, well, how about you head up the distillery? He's like, I've never distilled before in my life. Like, yep, we're going to Moonshine University and let's figure it out. And so he and I have this conversation maybe once a year. So we're like, damn, dude. Like, he works his ass off. He works as hard as I do, and has been with us since day one. And we often talk about, would we do it again? Yes, we would. But I took a hard look at it early on. I would take a harder look at it right now. So, yes, we would do it again, but, man, we've learned a lot of lessons over the last 10 years. And, I'm going to learn something today. I guarantee I'm going out to downtown Denver today to do a tasting with a restaurant group here after we got off the call. And, we learned something, and Sean's on the still right now. We have new make distillate coming off the still right now. And, yeah, I'd do it again, but, man, I'd take a harder look at it, I think. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's, anything in life, we learn, we grow, we evolve, rinse and repeat,
right.
And that's why as we get older in life, we start to turn gray. And this is called
right.
wisdom, right?
Right.
Well, you don't got it. Hey, you haven't been as stressed out as me, obviously. But explain the process of the distilling. How do you make your whiskey?
Sure. So we have a 500-gallon combination pot column still, 100% copper from Vendome. And we have a 500-gallon batch system. So we have our grain silos, a rye, malted barley, and corn silos, and we crush the grain on site. So we turn into a flour, cook that flour, and convert those starches into a sugar during the cooking process, which takes about 6-7 hours, and then ferment that for about 6 days. And during that fermentation process, it takes the sugars from it looks like an oatmeal slurry, for lack of a better term, and it converts those sugars into an alcohol. And at that point, it's about a 12% ABV beer. It's an uncarbonated beer. We're not bottling or canning any kind of beer, but at that point, and every distillery does this. It's about a 12% ABV beer, and then we take that 12% ABV beer and put it into our still. 172 degrees, alcohol vaporizes, boils, and then we condense those vapors into a new make distillate. and then age that, distill it in our new make barrels, our 100% oak barrels with a number 4 char. And then a couple years later, it comes out looking like that. So long story short.
So it takes several years of working this to even see the benefits of making any profits from the work you did 2 years ago or 3 years ago or whatever it may be.
Which is the challenge of the entrepreneur side, because you have supply, demand, and cash flow. You got to pay bills still, right? You got to pay your grain provider, your bottle provider, your cork provider, let alone all the merch that we have. And so that's a tricky part about getting into there's a high barrier to entry. And so that's all part of it. So
now there must be some sort of chemistry and science involved here. Now, you just can't say, oh, I'm going to make this just like Jack Daniels does, or just like another big time company. Who wrote how did you lay out a blueprint from a guy that came from the restaurant business and selling candy as a kid to designing to creating a unique taste of whiskey?
Well, we're selling candy to adults now. That's all we're doing, for the record. So, but to your point, so when we were at Moonshine University, we leaned on a couple of the instructors there, like, hey, we like X, Y, and Z, and we want to take these different flavors from this brand and put it in our own brand. And so that was part of it. Our second distiller, a guy named Jeremy DeWitt, he has a chemistry background. And so he came on board with us about 6 years ago. And so he certainly adds a lot of value to that whole process. He knows all the 4-syllable words that I can't even pronounce. I don't even try to pronounce it. We can get into esters and different chemistry aspects about it all. And so that plays a big part of it. Sean certainly does as well. We just hired a third distiller, Melissa Friel, and she's learning the process too. And so it's at first you start out and you make a new distillate, and it's fun as shit. It's fucking great. We love it, right? And then you take that, and maybe it was good or maybe it was bad. It doesn't matter. It's just fun. And then you take that and then try to hone in, like, all right, well, let's take different flavors. Let's cut it here. Let's cut the heads, cut the tails. And then come out with our own unique spirit after that. So certainly the first time is a lot of fun. You could care less how it tastes. You're just making a new distillate. And then after that, you try to hone it in. And we leaned on Moonshine University instructors to help us out 10 years ago. And then have created our own spirit after that. So.
How long did it take to create your own specific and unique formula to 10th Mountain Whiskey?
I'd say, if we had to put a time frame on it, probably 18 months.
18 months to create your own specific brand and your own specific formula.
Yeah, and Brian, I guess I'll maybe take that back a little bit. Like our rye whiskey, we have been slowly, like maybe the last 6 years or so, we have narrowed in on our own, the mash bill that we're at now that people have really enjoyed. And our rye whiskey is our most awarded spirit. And we started out as a super high rye whiskey, and that we've dialed it back to a little less rye and a little more corn. It's still a rye whiskey, but and over the last 6 years that we've certainly narrowed in on our own recipes with our rye whiskey in particular. Our bourbon has been the same recipe since day one, which has been great. It's an ongoing process, and we're not Jack Daniels that have been doing this for 150 years, but in the same recipe. But we've had the same exact recipes with our rye whiskey in particular. For 6-7 years, and early on we've just been dialing down our rye, but our bourbon's been the same thing since day one. And then we started making a single malt about 4 years ago. We started laying down single malt, and that's 100% malted barley with our own unique yeast strain on it. And then we're lying down. We do some unique barrel finishes and some unique. We have a couple things coming out here soon. Stay tuned on that. There might be a hint of chocolate and some things coming out, so we'll see what happens. But it's an ongoing process, I guess, is the answer. We have a tried and true recipe, and then we kind of deviate from that and experiment with different things too. So,
Now you had mentioned, because of laws and everything else when it comes to alcohol in the United States of America, that you guys don't actually distribute it yourself. You don't mail it out. If you go online, it's going to get shipped from Washington, D.C. or California, correct? Yeah. So where is it actually bottled at?
So we bottle at our distillery in Gypsum, Colorado, which is about 30 minutes west of Vail. So we have a tasting room in Vail Village, right at the base of the ski mountain. And then our distillery is in a little lower rent district in Vail, in Gypsum, Colorado, which is 30 minutes west, just down I-70. And then so we distill, we bottle, and then we ship everything from there. And for our third-party fulfillment company in Washington, D.C. and San Diego, we send them pallets of our stuff. And on occasion, people will ask us, hey, you're a Colorado distillery from Vail. Why are your spirits coming from San Diego? Why are your spirits coming from DC? And it's because of the antiquated liquor laws. And so we self-distribute in the Vail Valley. And then we have a distributor in Colorado, which is Southern Glacier Wine and Spirits. And they're one of the bigger distributors in the country. And then we have a network of distributors in the 15 states that we're in through the third-party distribution. But then direct to consumer, it's with our third-party fulfillment company. So
I'm a consumer.
Does that make sense? It's confusing.
Yeah, no, it does. It just sounds like a bureaucratic nightmare to me. It just doesn't seem.
It's a complete nightmare.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is exactly. And so you can ship direct to consumer with beer and wine, but when you get into high proof spirits, you can't ship direct, which is just the dumbest thing in the world. But those laws are changing as we speak. There's 8 states that are reciprocal that you can ship direct to consumer to and from. Colorado's not one, so we can't participate in that yet. But those laws are changing. One of the good things that came out of COVID is direct to consumer importance, and a lot of people are asking for that to change. So we're getting there. It's going to be maybe another couple of years until across the country that we can ship direct to consumer from our distillery. But right now we have to use a third party, which is this fulfillment. It's called Speakeasy Co. And they're a great company that we have partnered up with. We've been with them for 4 or 5 years at this point. Unfortunately, it's a great group. We have to use them. So be it.
So I meet you at a trade show or at an event, and I'm a consumer. How are you going to sell me on your brand, and what separates you from your competition?
I think it depends on the trade show or event that we're at. It depends. Is it a whiskey heavy trade show or event, or is it a nonprofit that we're supporting? Is it a military event? I think it all just kind of depends on the location, what we're doing. Certainly, we hang our hat, and we support different military organizations across the country. And it's not like a dollar here and there. It's first and foremost in our heart and our brand to do that. We have a young whiskey. We're a young distillery overall, but we're very prideful on our flavors. And a lot of people will taste our whiskey blind and think it's a 6, 7, 8-year-old whiskey. We're a 2-year-old whiskey at this point. That is what is in the bottle. Certainly, if you come to our tasting rooms, we can share something a little bit older with you. So, it's just we're 15 people that wear our heart on our shoulder, not only with what we do, but with who we support as well. So it means the most to us.
Very good. Very good. Now, what are your goals for the upcoming year, and what is the vision that you foresee as you are forecasting down the road? Sure. This year, next year, because entrepreneurs, man, we're always thinking a year, 2 years ahead. That's just the way we operate.
I'm trying to pay my bills next week. I'm trying to pay my bills next week. That's all I'm doing. I'm trying to make payroll, But to your point, the next year or two, we're not opening up new markets. We are focusing on the markets that we're currently in and trying to grow volume there, and trying to gain some market share in the current markets. And then after that, we'll reassess. But we have a full-time person in Atlanta. We have a full-time person in the Northeast, certainly here in Colorado, obviously. And so we're trying to gain market share in the markets that we're in currently. And we get asked, or we have opportunities to have distribution in different states: Nebraska, New Mexico, Washington, California. But right now we're just focused on growing the market share in the markets that we're currently in. So that's the goal.
Yeah, just kind of, just nurture what you have and really build those relationships to where those are solidified before you start going out and trying to garner all these new, I think that's smart. I think that's really smart. It all starts with the relationships.
You nailed it. That's exactly what it is. It's funny. I could name liquor stores across the country at this point that carry us, and hell, 10 years ago, I could only name one liquor store, which was in my neighborhood, right? But now, and this guy walking in the background here, he's one of our sales reps. Say hi, JB.
How's it going, guys?
JB, I like it.
He's one of our sales reps here in Denver, and so yeah, that's it's all about building relationships and growing the brand and connecting with people that support the military first and foremost for us. A lot of liquor stores out there are ran by XYZ, but the guys and gals that have a military background that align with our brand and carry on our namesake, that's really important to us to work with them. So,
sure. Now, Ryan, this has been a great podcast interview, and I sincerely appreciate you coming on. But I always like to finish the program with a positive message, perhaps some encouragement. Perhaps there's a new or a very green entrepreneur out there that's wanting to hear some good advice, some good wisdom from a guy who's been an entrepreneur for your whole life, really. What type of encouragement or business advice could you offer our listeners today?
Well, Brian, while I have the mic, first, I want to say any vets out there that are struggling, please reach out to me. Please reach out to anybody else that are out there. I know it's hard to pick up a phone and dial a number, but man, it means the most for what you guys and gals have done out there and been through what you guys have gone through. You're not alone. Please reach out to us, to your friends, your family. Fucking call me up, hit me on my email, whatever it takes, man. So first, I think, Brian, let's start with that. Like you said, the veteran suicide rate is we need to address that. So that means a ton to me first, I guess. And then from an entrepreneur standpoint, keep going, comrade. Keep going, right? I have some tough days. Our whole team has tough days. And I always reiterate, our tough days are nothing compared to the tough days on the battlefield. This is nothing. Like we're trying to grow a business. We're making whiskey. We're having fun with it. Yeah, sure, some days suck. But our suck does not compare to the suck on the battlefield on occasion, right? And so if you're an entrepreneur, remember why you started. Like I had 10, 12 years ago, I had a dream of starting a whiskey distillery in Vail, Colorado. All right. I'm there. It has happened. I wake up some mornings. I'm like, fuck, I got to deal with some stuff. Mm-hmm. But I think back to why I started it. And so I think if you have a dream and you have a vision to be an entrepreneur and to do your own thing, then do it by all means. It ain't going to be gravy. I doubt it's going to be gravy, right? And there's going to be some days that suck, but remember why you started it. So I think is the most important. So, and I have to check myself often as to I wake up in the morning, like I got to deal with a bunch of paperwork and legalese and a bunch of shit, but I got to remember why I started it and remember that my day that sucks doesn't compare to the battlefield days that suck. So.
Yes, absolutely. And, like he said, embrace the suck. And that's a good military term, especially a good Marine Corps term. And folks, look, if you're an entrepreneur out there, all it takes is having a purpose, some passion, and a plan, and the will to succeed. And that's what will get you across the finish line. Thank you for joining us so much today, Ryan. We sincerely appreciate everything you have done and continue to do in the military and the veteran community. Your service and your sacrifice and your dedication to the veteran and military community is truly admirable.
It's the least we can do, and we're honored to continue the namesake, and I appreciate you all. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Folks, remember to stay inspired, stay encouraged, stay motivated, and always stay in the fight. Until next